Let me start with a scene you might recognize. It's 3 in the morning. The whole world is asleep. The house is silent. And there you are, wide awake, staring at the ceiling while your mind runs laps around a problem from 6 years ago that genuinely does not matter anymore. You've replayed the conversation. You've imagined 4 better versions of what you could have said. You've somehow connected it to the meaning of life, the heat-death of the universe, and whether you locked the front door. And as you lie there, exhausted but unable to switch off, a thought floats up. Why can't my brain just be quiet? If that sounds familiar, I want you to stick with me, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you see yourself. We tend to think of high intelligence as a golden ticket, a guarantee of an easier, happier life. But the psychology tells a much stranger and more human story. Being highly intelligent comes with its own hidden struggles, ones that almost nobody talks about. And today, I want to walk you through 4 of them, because understanding them might be the first step to making peace with the way your mind actually works. The first struggle is the one we just touched on, and it's the engine behind so many sleepless nights. The mind that will not stop thinking. Here's the thing about a highly capable brain. It's like a high-performance sports car engine that's been installed in a regular car driving through regular traffic. All that power has nowhere to go, so it revs, it analyzes, it overthinks. While other people can let a small comment slide off them, your brain grabs it, turns it over, examines it from 9 angles, and files it away for future rumination. Psychologists have actually found a real link between high verbal intelligence and a tendency toward worry and rumination. One theory suggests that the same cognitive machinery that lets you solve complex problems also keeps you chewing on emotional ones long after they've stopped being useful. Your brain doesn't really distinguish between a fascinating intellectual puzzle and an anxious worry. To the engine, they're both just problems to be solved, and it will keep running until it finds an answer, even when there isn't one. So if you've ever felt cursed by your own thoughts, understand this. It's not that something is wrong with you. It's that you have a powerful instrument that was never given an off switch. And that leads naturally into the second struggle, which is quieter but cuts much deeper. The strange and aching loneliness of seeing things other people don't. Imagine for a moment that you could see a color nobody else could see. You'd point at the sky and say, "Isn't that shade incredible?" And everyone around you would just stare, confused, seeing only ordinary blue. Over time, you might stop pointing. You might start to wonder if you imagined it. This is something highly intelligent people experience constantly, not with colors, but with ideas, patterns, and connections. You notice the flaw in the plan everyone else is excited about. You see the consequence 3 steps ahead, while the room is still celebrating step 1. You make a joke layered with meaning, and it lands in total silence. And slowly, you learn to shrink, to simplify, to hold back the very thoughts that make you who you are, just so you can fit into the conversation. There's research suggesting that beyond a certain point, higher intelligence can actually correlate with lower life satisfaction in social settings, partly because of this gap, this feeling of being slightly out of sync with the people around you. It's a peculiar kind of isolation because you're not alone. You're surrounded by people. You just feel unseen, like you're always translating your native language into something simpler so others can follow. And that translation, day after day, is exhausting. But before I go on, I want to pause and say something to you directly, because I know how this can sound. None of this means intelligent people are better than anyone else, or that they suffer more than everyone else. That's not the point at all. Every kind of mind has its own weather. The point is that we almost never acknowledge that intelligence has a shadow side, and when you don't have a name for what you're feeling, you tend to blame yourself for it. You think you're broken, or arrogant, or just bad at being a person. So let's keep naming these things, because naming them is how you stop carrying them alone. The third struggle is one of the cruelest, and it's the great paradox at the heart of a sharp mind. The more you know, the more you realize how little you actually know. There's a famous psychological effect you've probably heard of, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where people with low ability in something tend to wildly overestimate how good they are. They're standing on a tiny hill of knowledge, but because they can't see the mountain range beyond it, they think they've reached the summit. But here's the part people forget. The effect works in reverse, too. Highly competent people often underestimate themselves. The more you genuinely understand a subject, the more clearly you can see the vast, dark ocean of everything you still don't understand. So while the least informed person in the room is brimming with confidence, you, the one who has actually done the reading, are riddled with doubt. This is the breeding ground for imposter syndrome, that gnawing feeling that you're a fraud about to be exposed, even when you're objectively skilled and accomplished. Think about the tragic irony of that. The very depth of your understanding becomes the source of your insecurity. You're not insecure because you know too little. You're insecure because you can finally see how much there is to know. And in a strange way, that doubt is a sign of wisdom, even though it feels like weakness. The Greek philosopher Socrates supposedly said that the only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. And if that's true, then your self-doubt might just be your intelligence quietly recognizing the size of the world. Which brings me to the fourth and final struggle. And honestly, it might be the one that holds the most people back from ever reaching their potential. The heavy, paralyzing weight of expectation, and its constant companion, the fear of being ordinary. If you were the smart kid growing up, you know exactly what I mean. You were praised for being clever, for getting it right the first time, for barely needing to try. And it felt wonderful, until it became a cage. Because when your identity is built on being effortlessly brilliant, the moment something becomes genuinely difficult, your brain panics. There's groundbreaking research by the psychologist Carol Dweck on what she calls fixed versus growth mindsets. Children praised for being smart rather than for working hard often develop a fragile relationship with challenge. They start avoiding anything they might fail at because failure wouldn't just mean they got something wrong, it would threaten the entire story of who they are. So they play it safe. They choose the easy A over the hard, meaningful struggle. They abandon the novel, the business, the dream, the very first moment it stops being easy. Because deep down, there's a terrifying voice whispering, "What if I try my hardest and discover I'm just average after all?" And so a brilliant mind can spend an entire lifetime running from the one thing it most needs, which is the freedom to struggle, to be a beginner, to be magnificently, gloriously bad at something on the way to becoming good at it. Now, I could leave you there with these 4 heavy struggles, but that would be doing you a disservice, because here's where everything turns. Every single one of these struggles is just a strength that hasn't been properly understood yet. The overthinking mind that keeps you up at night? That's the same mind capable of extraordinary depth, creativity, and insight once you learn to point it toward problems worth solving instead of letting it idle on old regrets. The loneliness of seeing too much? That's the mark of a genuine visionary, and it eases the moment you find even 1 or 2 people who see the same colors you do. Your people, the ones who make you feel a little less like you're translating. The crushing self-doubt? That's intellectual humility, the foundation of all real growth. And once you reframe it, it stops being a wound and becomes a compass, always pointing you toward more to learn. And the fear of being ordinary? That dissolves the day you realize that intelligence was never the point. What you do with it is. A sharp mind sitting safely on a shelf, afraid of being tested, is worth far less than an ordinary mind that dares greatly and fails and tries again. So if you've spent your life feeling like your own brain is both your greatest gift and your heaviest burden, I want you to hear this. You are not too much. You are not broken. You are running powerful, sensitive, complex software in a world that often runs something far simpler. And of course that comes with friction. The goal was never to dim your mind so the world feels more comfortable. The goal is to understand it, to befriend it, to finally stop fighting the very thing that makes you extraordinary. Your intelligence is not a problem to be solved. It's an instrument to be learned. And you have your whole life to learn how to play it. So let me ask you, because I really do want to know, which of these 4 struggles hit closest to home for you? Was it the racing mind, the loneliness, the self-doubt, or the fear of being ordinary? Drop it in the comments, because there are more people like you down there than you could ever imagine. And sometimes, just realizing you're not alone in this changes everything. And if this gave you a new way of seeing your own mind, stay a while, because there is so much more to understand about the beautiful, complicated machinery between your ears.